how do we use the view and pure keywords in Solidity functions? Let's find out. Functions can be declared view, in which case they promise not to modify the state. And what is considered to modify the state? Writing to state variables, emitting events, creating other contracts, using self-destruct, sending ether via calls, calling any function not marked view or pure, using low-level calls, and using inline assembly that contains certain opcodes. Now let's take a look at the view function. In here we have this f function that is public. As you remember, can be called from within the contract, from contracts that inherit from C, and from other contracts. Will this compile? Of course it does. After deploying it, let's use the f function. So this example is from the documentation, and they are using the block timestamp, just not to oversimplify things. Well, we can see that it works. Pure functions. Functions can be declared pure, in which case they promise not to read from or modify the state. Reading the state is reading from state variables, accessing the current contract's balance or any address balance, accessing any of the members of block transaction message with the exception of message sig and message data, calling any function not marked pure, and using inline assembly that contains certain opcodes. Let's see one example. So here we have the p function. Let's compile it and deploy, and we can see the result is correct. This is a very basic example, and you can see how it works. Now let's try some things. Let's define a public uint variable. Will this function multiply by a work? We have a view function, and we are receiving a uint, multiplying it by a, that is a state variable. Let's try. As you can see, it works because we are not changing the value of a. Now let's see another example. As we can see, after compiling, we get this error that says that the expression modifies the state, so we cannot use view in a case like this. Let's see another example. Now we have these two functions, call add to a and add to a. Inside this first one we are calling the second and passing the y uint, and then in here we are returning the sum of the state variable a plus the received uint. So let's see how this behaves when we compile. As you can see, we get this function declared as view error. The expression potentially modifies the state. This is a bit strange. Let's see what it is all about. In here we get this warning: function state mutability can be restricted to view. Let's see what happens when we change this to view. And now, after we compile, we see that everything is fine just by changing. So what happens is that this will throw an error because the behavior of the add to a function was not defined in concordance with the call add to a function. Now let's see this multiply by a function, but now the behavior is set to pure. Let's compile. It says that the expression potentially reads from the environment or state, and of course it does, because it is reading this state variable a inside, and this is not allowed for pure functions. Pure function works kind of an isolated box. It won't read almost anything outside of it. Let's make a small change. So I just changed the return. I am using constant in here. Let's compile. As you can see, there is no error because we are not reading from the state. Let's go for the last example. Now we have two functions again. We have this call add to that receives a uint, and inside it is calling the add to function where it returns a 10 plus the received uint. Let's see if this works. Now we also get this error that says that the expression potentially modifies the state. So down here, function state can be restricted to pure. Remix is helping us because it already knows that it should be a pure function. Let's see. So this pure function can only call a function with a defined behavior, in this case this pure add2 function. Make sure you like and subscribe so you can be notified when I upload the next video. Thanks for watching.